From Tony DiNozzo's sudden departure from the show to Caitlin Todd's heart-wrenching death in Season 2, these are NCIS's most shocking moments. The show first aired in 2003, and 20 seasons later, it's given us many jaw-dropping moments on screen, but when it comes to making fans' hearts skip a beat, nothing is more effective than announcing Tony DiNozzo's sudden departure from the show. So in Season 13, Episode 24, things took a wild turn. When Tony learned that his former partner and love interest, Ziva David, tragically died in a farmhouse explosion in Israel, but that wasn't the only bombshell news he got that day, because he also found out that he had a daughter with Ziva named Tali, who miraculously survived the blast. Talk about a double whammy. Tony left the squad to raise his daughter, but in doing so, he left a massive blank space on the show. He'd been part of the show since the very beginning and had become one of the most loved characters on screen. Plus, his relationship with Gibbs was to die for with their father and son bond. But considering the complicated and passionate history he shared with Ziva, this was the right move for him. Fans were absolutely gutted to find out about the way Ziva died, killing all hope for their reunion. And the news spread like crazy on social media. With fans tweeting about their sadness and frustration, many felt that Tony and Ziva deserved a better ending. And the thought of NCIS without them was a hard pill to swallow. Some held on to the hope that Tony might make a comeback someday, or that Ziva might still be alive in some weird twist of fate. And at the time, it did feel like we were all being delusional. But guess what? CBS played us all when they revealed the real truth about Ziva's supposed death. In Season 13, Episode 24, a mortar attack targeted Ziva's farmhouse in Israel, and when NCIS found out, the news spread like wildfire. Everyone, especially Tony DiNozzo, was left devastated. After doing a little digging, they found out that a shady character named Sahar was behind the attack, with some mysterious vendetta against Ziva. And at the time, fans couldn't believe this was how the showrunners decided to take her off the show. But as it turns out, CBS's writers were thinking 10 steps ahead. Ziva apparently faked her death to protect her loved ones from Sahar's wrath. She only contacted Gibbs to warn him about the danger he was in, but this twist was exactly what the show needed at the time. David had fans obsessed with her since Season 3, and her fiery romance with Tony was the best part of the show. But what attracted fans to her the most was her incredible backstory. Ziva was a former Mossad agent, which added layers to her personality and explained a lot about the way she was. The loss of her father, Eli David, made her all the more complex. So fans were determined to get her the happy ending she deserved, and they were ready to fight for her and Tony to find happiness together. So the news that she was alive all this time really caught everyone off guard. But while Ziva was able to get away unharmed, I can't say the same thing about Mike Franks, because his death had fans crying for days. To give you a little backstory, Mike was Gibbs' mentor and close friend. But the former NCIS supervisory special agent was hiding a tragic secret from all of us. He was battling terminal lung cancer, but rather than letting it take over, he decided to go out with a bang. Franks faced off against a rogue CIA agent named Jonas Cobb, and while he managed to injure Cobb, he also took a fatal stab to the chest. I don't think I can ever forget the scene of Gibbs crying as he held Mike in his arms. But I wasn't the only one bawling at this scene, because Mike was no ordinary character. He'd been a part of the NCIS family for a very long time, and fans loved his interactions with Gibbs. Frank taught Gibbs everything he knew about being an exceptional NCIS agent. But what made the situation even more intense was that Mike already had a very complex backstory. He'd served in Vietnam, investigated the murder of Gibbs' family, and dealt with the tragic loss of his son. NCIS fans were extremely protective of him, so it was expected that they'd have it out for the show's writers once this episode dropped. Many believed that Franks deserved a better ending, but even I have to admit that he went out with honor, and his student came very close to having the same fate as him, because Gibbs' Season 12 shooting scene had fans on the edge of their seats. In Episode 24, the fearless leader and the backbone of NCIS finds himself himself in the crosshairs of danger. While in Iraq with DiNozzo and CIA officer Joanna Teague, he faces off against The Calling, a terrorist group targeting military personnel. It was the definition of high-stakes action, and in the middle of this chaos, Gibbs gets shot not once, but twice. The first bullet finds its mark in Gibbs's leg during a heart-pounding chase, but the danger doesn't stop there. A second shot hits Gibbs in the chest, threatening his very existence. Suspense overload, am I right? After being rushed to surgery, Leroy defies the odds and survives, but he wakes up to a whole new set of challenges. He is plagued by memory loss and haunting hallucinations of his dead lover. It was an insane moment to see as a longtime fan of the show. Mark Harmon's character is the one everyone leans on for stability, so seeing him in that vulnerable state left fans crushed. And considering the show's history of killing off the characters fans love, you can see why they immediately began panicking on social media. I mean, NCIS just wouldn't be the same without him, and this episode shook the very foundation of the show. But while I'm on the topic of high-stakes situations, I have to talk about Leon Vance's insane kidnapping in the season 15 finale. The brilliant and no-nonsense NCIS director found himself in the clutches of a notorious terrorist named Nigel Hakim, and to make matters worse, Hakim had major history with the team, which added a new layer of suspense and intrigue to the storyline. Vance was always a savvy and experienced leader, so it was wild to see him falling into Hakim's trap when the terrorist posed as an informant. And before anyone knew it, he was whisked away to an airplane headed to an unknown destination. The NCIS team is left scratching their heads, desperate to figure out where their director is, and can I just say, Rocky Carroll's acting in this episode was just incredible. Vance always had this air of authority about him, something that the fans adored. So this kidnapping sent shockwaves through the NCIS world, and the fact that fans had to wait for 4 months to get an answer was just crazy. But even then, the finale doesn't even compare to the shock fans got after Caitlin Todd's heart-wrenching death. Season 2's finale, titled Twilight, easily takes the cake for being the most jaw-dropping scene on NCIS. The tough and resourceful NCIS agent finds herself in the line of fire, quite literally, and ends up getting shot in the head by the cunning and dangerous sniper Ari Haswari. Plus, to think it all went down after Caitlin and her team cleared a warehouse and she was left unprotected, I don't think I can ever forgive the show writers for this unnecessary death. But the fact that this was the first major death on the show also made the scene all the more tragic and surprising. Sasha Alexander had fans hooked to her character from the very first episode. From her bond with Gibbs to her banter with DiNozzo, Caitlin's unique skill set as a former Secret Service agent made her an invaluable asset to the team. So watching her sudden demise at the hands of a heartless terrorist left us all reeling. The cast and crew of NCIS weren't safe from the shockwaves either, and they paid tribute to Sasha Alexander in a heartfelt farewell video. They thanked her for her incredible contribution to the show, wishing her all the best in her future. The actress herself said she was grateful for her time on NCIS and the love she'd received for playing Caitlin's role. But she also felt it was time to explore new projects and take on new opportunities. So the fans said goodbye to one of the best written characters on the show. Well, there you have it, from Caitlin Todd's heart-wrenching death in season 2 to Tony DiNozzo's sudden departure from the show. Those were NCIS's most shocking moments.